What if everything you've been taught about money, success, and abundance has been keeping you trapped in a cycle of limitation? What if the very beliefs you hold about prosperity are the invisible chains preventing you from accessing what is rightfully yours? Think about this for a moment. You wake up every morning, work hard, follow all the conventional wisdom about success, yet somehow that sense of true abundance, that feeling of having enough, being enough, living without constant financial anxiety remains just out of reach. Has this ever happened to you? You do everything you're supposed to do, yet prosperity feels like something reserved for other people, as if there's some secret code you weren't given access to. Here's what most people don't realize. Abundance isn't a privilege earned through luck, connections, or even hard work alone. It's not a reward that the universe randomly distributes to a chosen few while leaving everyone else to struggle. What you're about to discover might surprise you, but abundance is actually your spiritual birthright, as natural to you as breathing, as fundamental to your existence as the beating of your heart. The truth is, there exists a precise, infallible, and perfect law governing the universe. A law that operates with mathematical certainty, whether you're aware of it or not. This isn't mystical wishful thinking or New Age fantasy. This is a principle that can be known, understood, applied, and lived consciously. Every single day, this law is working in your life, shaping your reality, creating your experiences, and determining your level of prosperity. But here's where it gets fascinating. Most people are unconsciously using this law against themselves. They're perfectly aligned with scarcity, limitation, and struggle, not because they want to be, but because they've never been taught how the real mechanics of abundance actually work. They're like someone trying to drive a car while pressing the brake and accelerator simultaneously, wondering why they're not getting anywhere. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what we're exploring today isn't just another collection of positive thinking platitudes or motivational quotes that make you feel good for a moment, but change nothing in your actual experience. This is about understanding something far deeper, something that has the power to fundamentally shift not just how you think about money and success, but how you experience reality itself. You see, the moment you truly grasp that abundance is not an exception for a few, but your spiritual right for being an expression of the divine principle, everything changes. This isn't about entitlement or demanding what you want from life. This is about recognizing what you actually are, a conscious being with the inherent capacity to align with the same creative force that governs the stars, the seasons, and every natural cycle of growth and expansion you see around you. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. The ancient wisdom traditions knew this. The greatest spiritual teachers throughout history understood this. And now, through the profound insights we're about to explore together, you're going to understand it too. Because once you see how this universal law actually operates, once you learn to work with it instead of against it, once you discover how to align your consciousness with abundance rather than scarcity, you'll realize that living prosperously isn't about getting something you don't have. It's about becoming who you actually are. This is your invitation to step through a door of consciousness, to take your rightful place in the divine order of life, exactly as you were designed to live. The moment you begin to understand this fundamental truth, something profound shifts in your entire relationship with reality. Because here's what most people never realize. Everything you need, everything you desire, every solution to every challenge you're facing, it all already exists. Not somewhere far away, not in some distant future when you've finally earned it, but right now in what we might call the invisible plane of existence. This isn't abstract philosophy or metaphysical theory. This is the hidden truth behind every major breakthrough, every unexpected opportunity, every Moment when life suddenly shifted in ways that seemed impossible just moments before. Think about the greatest transformations you've witnessed in your own life or in the lives of others. Behind every single one of these revelations was this same principle at work: the power of alignment between your consciousness and the infinite field of possibility that surrounds you at every moment. Your mind, when it truly aligns with this divine source, becomes far more than just a thinking mechanism. It becomes a creative instrument capable of bringing into visible form what already exists in the realm of pure potential. This is why some people seem to effortlessly attract opportunities, while others struggle for years without significant change. It's not about luck, connections, or even talent. It's about understanding how to work with this invisible architecture of creation. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because there's a specific tool that acts as the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between what exists in potential and what manifests in your actual experience. This tool is what we call a decree. But this isn't just positive thinking or wishful affirmations that you repeat half-heartedly while secretly doubting their effectiveness. A true decree is something entirely different. It's an affirmative and conscious word that, when pronounced with genuine conviction, has the power to literally reorder your internal world. Think of it as a command that your subconscious mind receives and then begins to fulfill with the same precision that your body responds when you decide to move your hand. The decree doesn't create what you desire, it reveals and activates what already exists in that invisible plane of infinite supply. This is where most people get it wrong. They approach decrees like they're trying to convince the universe to give them something, as if they're negotiating with some external force that might or might not cooperate. But that's completely backwards. The universe isn't holding back your good, waiting for you to prove yourself worthy. Your abundance isn't locked away somewhere, requiring the right combination of words to unlock it. The real transformation happens when you understand that decreeing is actually an act of recognition, not supplication. You're not begging for something you don't have. You're declaring something you're finally ready to accept. You're aligning your conscious awareness with what's already true in the deeper dimensions of reality. When you speak with this kind of conviction, not hope, not wishful thinking, but absolute certainty, something remarkable happens behind the scenes of your experience. Your subconscious mind, which has been operating according to old patterns and limitations, suddenly receives new instructions. And just like updating software on your computer changes how it operates, this internal shift begins to change how your entire life operates. The impact isn't just mental or emotional, it's practical, tangible, measurable. Decisions that once seemed impossible become obvious. Opportunities that were always there but invisible to you suddenly come into focus. People, resources, and circumstances begin organizing themselves in ways that support your new level of consciousness rather than reflecting your old limitations. This journey from scarcity to abundance isn't about changing the world around you. It's about changing the lens through which you perceive and interact with a world that was already abundant, already responding to your consciousness, already waiting for you to step into alignment with your true nature. Write in the comments, "I'm ready to align," if this resonates with you so far. But here's where this journey gets really interesting, because most people think abundance is just about money, having more in the bank account, buying nicer things, living in a bigger house. And while financial prosperity is certainly part of it, what we're really talking about is something much more fundamental. The transformation we're exploring requires you to stop thinking like a poor person. And I don't just mean poor in terms of dollars and cents. Poverty of mindset runs so much deeper than financial circumstances. It's poverty of ideas, the belief that there are only limited solutions to your challenges, that creativity and innovation are gifts reserved for other people. It's poverty of vision, the inability to see beyond current circumstances, to imagine possibilities that don't yet exist in your immediate reality. It's poverty of inner security, that constant background anxiety that whispers there's never enough, that something bad is always around the corner, that you need to hoard and protect because the universe is fundamentally unsafe. This kind of thinking operates like an invisible filter, shaping every decision you make, every opportunity you notice or miss, every relationship you form. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, these poverty-based thought patterns are constantly broadcasting signals that attract experiences matching their frequency. It's like walking around with a radio permanently tuned to a station playing scarcity, lack, and limitation on repeat. The hidden truth that changes everything is understanding that thought isn't just something that happens in your head. It's the universal cause behind everything that manifests in human experience, without exception. Every single thing you see in your life right now, every condition, every relationship, every financial situation, every health challenge or blessing, every opportunity or obstacle, all of it originated first in the realm of thought. This revelation can be initially uncomfortable because it means taking complete responsibility for your experience. No more blaming the economy, your background, other people, or circumstances beyond your control. But it's also incredibly empowering because it means you have access to the fundamental creative force of the universe, your own consciousness. Most people live their entire lives never realizing they're constantly creating their reality through the quality and consistency of their thinking. They believe thoughts are just random mental chatter, background noise with no real impact on their practical experience. So they let their minds wander wherever old programming, fear, or social conditioning takes them, never understanding that this internal landscape is literally the blueprint for their external world. When you truly grasp this principle, everything shifts. You begin to see that changing your life isn't about manipulating external circumstances or waiting for the right breaks. It's about becoming conscious of the thoughts you're thinking, the mental images you're holding, the internal conversations you're having with yourself throughout the day. Because these invisible processes are the actual machinery of creation, operating in your life right now. This isn't positive thinking in the superficial sense of just trying to feel good or avoiding negative emotions. This is understanding the mechanics of how consciousness creates form, how the invisible realm of mind translates into the visible realm of experience. It's recognizing that your thoughts are constantly sending out signals, attracting corresponding experiences, orchestrating circumstances that match your dominant mental patterns. The impact of truly understanding this goes far beyond personal success or individual prosperity. When enough people begin operating from this level of consciousness, it creates ripple effects that transform entire communities, industries, and cultures. Because abundance consciousness isn't selfish, it naturally expands to include and uplift everything around it. Now, I want to explore with you the specific mechanics of how this law operates, because understanding the process behind the scenes makes all the difference between random positive thinking and consciously directed creation. Write in the comments, thoughts create reality, if you're beginning to see how this works. The specific mechanics I'm referring to operate according to what we call the law of mentalism. And once you understand this principle, you'll never look at your life the same way again. This law states something that might initially challenge everything you've been taught about how reality works. All cause is mental, and every visible condition you see around you is merely the condensed reflection of an invisible pattern that preceded it. Think about that for a moment. Every single thing in your physical environment right now, the device you're watching this on, the room you're sitting in, the clothes you're wearing, even the relationships in your life, all of it began as a thought in someone's mind. Behind the scenes of what appears to be a material world, there's an invisible architecture of ideas, beliefs, and mental patterns that gave birth to every form you can perceive. This revelation completely transforms how you approach any challenge or goal in your life. Because if everything visible is simply the reflection of something invisible, then changing your external circumstances isn't about manipulating the world around you. It's about shifting the mental patterns that are creating those circumstances in the first place. Nothing exists outside of thought. This isn't mystical philosophy, it's the hidden truth behind how life actually operates. Every single thing you experience is part of a process of cause and effect that occurs entirely in the sphere of mind. Your financial situation, your health, your relationships, your career, these aren't random events happening to you. They're the inevitable results of the mental causes you've been setting in motion, often without realizing it. Most people have this backwards. They look at their external circumstances and then form thoughts and feelings about them. They see a lack of money and think thoughts of scarcity. They experience a health challenge and develop beliefs about limitation. They encounter relationship difficulties and create mental patterns of distrust or unworthiness. But this approach keeps them trapped in an endless cycle because they're trying to change the effect while continuously reinforcing the cause. The transformation happens when you realize that the external world is always following the internal world, never the other way around. Your bank account is reflecting your money consciousness. Your body is reflecting your health consciousness. Your relationships are reflecting your love consciousness. The opportunities that show up or don't show up in your life are direct mirrors of your possibility consciousness. This understanding puts incredible power back in your hands because it means you're not at the mercy of external circumstances. You're not a victim of the economy, your genetics, your background, or your current situation. You're the conscious creator of your experience, and every moment offers you the opportunity to shift the mental causes that will produce different effects. But here's where most people get stuck in this journey of transformation. They understand this principle intellectually, but they don't know how to practically apply it. They try to think positive thoughts, while their subconscious mind continues operating from old programming. They attempt to visualize abundance, while their dominant internal dialogue still runs on themes of scarcity and struggle. The impact of truly mastering this law goes far beyond personal development or individual success. When you begin operating as a conscious creator rather than an unconscious reactor, you become a force for transformation in the world. Your elevated consciousness naturally lifts the consciousness of everyone around you. Your decisions begin coming from wisdom rather than fear. Your very presence starts to demonstrate what's possible when someone aligns with these deeper principles. Now, I want to show you exactly how this law of mentalism operates in the practical details of your everyday experience, because understanding the process behind mental creation is what makes the difference between hope and certainty. Write in the comments, "I see the connection," if this is starting to click for you. The practical details of how this works are fascinating, and once you see them clearly, you'll understand why some people seem to effortlessly manifest their desires, while others struggle for years without significant change. Your mind never rests. Every single moment, whether you're aware of it or not, your consciousness is actively creating, constantly projecting, always producing externally what it holds internally. This isn't something that happens only when you sit down to meditate or practice visualization. This is the law operating continuously behind the scenes of your everyday experience. Most people completely underestimate the sheer power of this constant mental activity. They think creation happens only during those moments when they're consciously focused on their goals or desires. But the truth is far more profound and immediate than that. Right now, as you're absorbing this information, your mind is simultaneously processing thousands of subtle thoughts, beliefs, and mental images that are actively shaping your reality for tomorrow, next week, and beyond. This is why the transformation so many people seek remains elusive despite their best efforts. They focus intensely on what they want for a few minutes a day, then spend the remaining hours unconsciously thinking thoughts of doubt, limitation, and fear. They have a fleeting moment of inspiration about abundance, then immediately return to mental patterns of scarcity. The mind responds to what it receives most consistently, not what it receives most intensely. Here's the hidden truth that changes everything. What matters is not the lightning of fleeting desire, but the quality of sustained thought. Your mind doesn't create based on momentary wishes or occasional positive thinking sessions. It responds to conviction, those deep, consistent mental patterns that you hold with certainty, whether conscious or unconscious. Form follows belief, always, without exception. Think about the beliefs you hold with absolute conviction right now. You don't question gravity when you drop something. You know it will fall. You don't wonder if the sun will rise tomorrow. You plan your day around that certainty. These unquestioned beliefs create consistent results because there's no internal conflict, no doubt, no contradiction. The same principle applies to every area of your life, but most people haven't learned to apply it consciously. The journey from struggle to abundance isn't about occasionally thinking abundant thoughts. It's about transforming your sustained thought patterns until abundance becomes as natural and unquestioned as breathing. When prosperity consciousness becomes your default mental state rather than something you have to work to maintain, that's when your external world begins reflecting this new internal reality. Behind the scenes of every major breakthrough in someone's life, you'll find this principle at work. The person didn't just want something different, they sustained a different quality of thought until it became their dominant mental frequency. Their decisions began flowing from this new consciousness. Their actions aligned naturally with their elevated thinking. Their very presence started attracting experiences that matched their transformed internal state. This is why willpower alone rarely creates lasting change. Willpower operates from the surface level of consciousness, but sustained thought patterns run much deeper. You might force yourself to think positively for a while, but if your underlying beliefs haven't shifted, you'll eventually snap back to the old patterns. Lasting transformation happens when you change the foundation, when you alter the sustained thought patterns that have been creating your current experience. The impact of understanding this distinction cannot be overstated. It means you don't have to struggle or strain to create the life you desire. You don't have to convince the universe or overcome external obstacles. You simply need to become conscious of the sustained thoughts you're already thinking and gradually replace the ones that aren't serving you with ones that align with what you truly want to experience. Now, I want to reveal something even deeper about how your mind processes these sustained thoughts and converts them into your lived experience, because there's a specific mechanism operating within your consciousness that most people never learn to work with effectively. Write in the comments, "My mind is always creating," if you're recognizing this constant creative process in your own life. The specific mechanism I'm referring to operates at a level most people never consciously engage with, yet it's constantly responding to every repeated thought pattern you hold. Every single time you repeat internally that something is difficult, you are literally ordering your subconscious mind to make it so. This isn't metaphorical language. Your subconscious operates like the most faithful servant you could imagine, taking every repeated thought as a direct command, and then working tirelessly behind the scenes to bring that command into reality. This revelation transforms everything about how you approach challenges in your life. When you say to yourself, even casually, "Money is always tight. Finding good relationships is hard. Success requires sacrifice," or "I'm just not lucky," you're not simply describing your current situation. You're programming your subconscious to continue creating exactly those experiences. Your inner dialogue becomes the blueprint from which your outer world is constructed. The hidden truth that most people miss is that your subconscious doesn't evaluate whether your thoughts are beneficial or harmful, true or false, empowering or limiting. It simply receives the repeated patterns and faithfully executes them. It's like having the most powerful computer in the world, but one that runs whatever software you install, regardless of whether that software serves your best interests. This is why the journey of transformation requires such careful attention to your internal landscape. The thoughts you think you're just having are actually instructions you're giving. The stories you tell yourself about why things are the way they are become the scripts your subconscious follows to create more of the same. The casual complaints you make about your circumstances are orders for those circumstances to continue and intensify. But here's where this understanding becomes incredibly empowering rather than overwhelming. The law of mentalism reveals that there are no material causes. The external world is a mirror, not an origin. The cause is always in thought. This means that no matter how solid, permanent, or unchangeable your current circumstances appear, they are simply reflections of mental patterns that can be shifted. The economy isn't the cause of your financial situation. Your money consciousness is. Your genetics aren't the cause of your health challenges. Your health consciousness is. Other people's behavior isn't the cause of your relationship difficulties. Your relationship consciousness is. This perspective completely revolutionizes how you approach any area of life you want to change. Instead of trying to manipulate external conditions or waiting for circumstances to improve, you go directly to the source, the sustained thought patterns creating those conditions. This is why some people can start with nothing and create incredible abundance, while others inherit wealth and lose it. This is why some individuals overcome seemingly impossible health challenges, while others, with every medical advantage, struggle. The difference isn't in their external resources, it's in their internal programming. The impact of truly grasping this principle extends far beyond personal success or individual achievement. When you understand that you're constantly giving orders to your subconscious through your repeated thoughts, you begin taking responsibility for your mental environment with the same care you'd take in preparing food or maintaining your home. You realize that your consciousness is the most valuable asset you possess, and you start treating it accordingly. Most people spend more time choosing what to watch on television than they do choosing what thoughts to sustain throughout the day. They'll research extensively before making a purchase, but they'll let their minds wander through patterns of worry, doubt, and limitation without any conscious direction. They'll be extremely careful about what they put in their bodies, but completely unconscious about what they're programming into their subconscious minds. Now, I want to explore with you exactly how this subconscious programming mechanism works and what you can do to start consciously directing it toward the experiences you actually want to create. Write in the comments, "I choose my thoughts," if you're ready to take conscious control of this programming process. The process of how thought actually becomes form is governed by another fundamental principle that operates with scientific precision behind the scenes of your everyday experience. This happens through what we call the law of vibration. Every single thought you think vibrates at a specific frequency, and every vibration produces a corresponding attraction. This isn't mystical theory. It's the hidden mechanism that explains why certain people consistently attract opportunities while others seem to repel them. Why some individuals effortlessly manifest their desires while others struggle for years without results. Think about this from a practical perspective. When you sustain thoughts of abundance, gratitude, and possibility, you're literally broadcasting a vibrational frequency that resonates with experiences matching that same energy. Your mind becomes like a tuning fork, sending out signals that attract circumstances, people, and opportunities that harmonize with your dominant mental state. This is Why people often describe successful individuals as having a certain presence or energy about them. They're unconsciously sensing the vibrational frequency that person consistently maintains. The transformation happens when you understand that this vibrational process is operating whether you're aware of it or not. Your thoughts aren't just private mental events with no external impact. They're constantly transmitting signals that organize your reality according to their frequency. When you think thoughts of scarcity, worry, or limitation with emotional intensity, you're sending out a signal that attracts more experiences that confirm those patterns. When you sustain thoughts of abundance, confidence, and possibility, you're broadcasting a frequency that draws corresponding experiences into your life. This revelation explains why simply trying to think positive thoughts often doesn't create lasting change. Most people attempt to overlay positive thinking on top of deeper, vibrational patterns of fear, doubt, or unworthiness. It's like trying to tune into a radio station while another frequency is playing loudly in the background. You get static and confusion rather than clear reception. Now, I want to reveal something that completely revolutionizes how you can work with this vibrational principle, because there's a specific tool that acts as a bridge between understanding these concepts intellectually and actually applying them to transform your life. This tool involves understanding the crucial differences between asking, praying, affirming, and decreeing. And most people have never learned to distinguish between these approaches or understand why they produce dramatically different results. The journey most people take when they first discover these principles starts with asking. They recognize they want something different in their life, so they ask the universe, God, or whatever higher power they believe in to provide it. But asking comes from a consciousness of lack. The very act of asking implies that you don't currently have what you need. When you ask from a place of need, you're vibrationally affirming the absence of what you desire, which actually reinforces the experience of not having it. Traditional prayer often falls into the same vibrational trap. When prayer becomes repetitive supplication or begging for divine intervention, it can actually perpetuate the consciousness of separation and limitation. The emotional frequency behind desperate prayer often carries more power than the words themselves. And if that frequency is fear, doubt, or unworthiness, that's what gets amplified in your experience. Affirmations represent a step forward in this evolutionary process. When you consciously affirm positive statements about your life, you're beginning to use the vibrational principle more deliberately. But even affirmations can be limited if they're spoken without genuine conviction or if they create internal conflict between what you're saying and what you actually believe. The impact of understanding these distinctions becomes clear when you discover what makes decreeing fundamentally different from all these other approaches. A decree isn't a request, a plea, or even an attempt to convince yourself of something you hope might be true. Write in the comments, I understand vibration, if you're beginning to see how your thoughts are constantly broadcasting signals that shape your reality. A decree operates from a completely different vibrational foundation that transforms everything about how you interact with the creative forces of the universe. When you truly understand this distinction, it becomes clear why so many people remain stuck despite years of spiritual practice, positive thinking, or even intense prayer and meditation. The hidden truth about asking is that it inherently recognizes a lack and projects onto an external figure the possibility of obtaining help. Every time you ask for something, no matter how sincerely or devotedly, you're unconsciously affirming that you don't currently possess it. You're positioning yourself as separate from your good, dependent on something outside yourself to bridge that gap. This approach, while natural and well-intentioned, actually perpetuates the consciousness of scarcity that created the lack in the first place. Behind the scenes of this dynamic, your subconscious mind receives a very specific message. I am without this thing, need. That vibrational signal then becomes the dominant frequency your consciousness broadcasts, attracting more experiences that confirm your sense of separation from what you desire. It's like constantly telling the universe, "I don't have this," and then wondering why you continue not having it. This is why so many sincere, spiritually minded people can spend years praying, asking, and hoping for transformation without seeing significant changes in their actual circumstances. Their method of approach is unknowingly reinforcing the very consciousness they're trying to overcome. The more desperately they ask, the more they affirm their lack. The more they plead for help, the more they confirm their sense of powerlessness. A decree functions in an entirely different realm of consciousness. It's a spiritual proclamation with authority, the act of declaring a spiritual truth as already realized, spoken with the power of one who knows the law responds. When you decree, you're not begging the universe for something you hope to receive. You're declaring something you recognize as already yours, already present in the invisible realm of infinite supply, already moving into manifestation through the natural operation of spiritual law. The transformation in your results happens because the vibrational frequency of a decree is completely different from the frequency of a request. When you decree from genuine conviction, you're broadcasting the signal of someone who already possesses what they're speaking about. You're operating from abundance consciousness rather than lack consciousness. You're affirming your connection to the source rather than your separation from it. This shift in approach has profound practical implications for every area of your life. Instead of asking for financial security, you decree that divine provision flows to you constantly and abundantly. Instead of pleading for better health, you declare that perfect life force expresses through every cell of your body. Instead of hoping for loving relationships, you proclaim that you are surrounded by expressions of divine love in all its forms. The impact of this distinction goes far beyond the specific words you use. It's about the consciousness from which you're operating. When you decree with true understanding, you're stepping into your role as a conscious co-creator with the infinite intelligence that governs all life. You're claiming your spiritual authority rather than positioning yourself as a victim of circumstances. Most people have never experienced the power of authentic decreeing because they've never learned to distinguish between the mechanics of requesting and the mechanics of declaring. They repeat positive statements while internally doubting their truth. They speak words of abundance while emotionally resonating with scarcity. They proclaim their good while secretly wondering if they deserve it or if it will actually manifest. Now, I want to reveal the specific elements that make a decree genuinely effective, because understanding these components is what transforms wishful thinking into conscious creation. Write in the comments, "I decree my good," if you're ready to step into this more powerful way of working with universal law. The specific elements that transform a decree from mere positive thinking into genuine spiritual authority begin with understanding your true identity in this creative process. When you decree with authentic power, you act as a child of God, not as a beggar of the universe. This isn't about religious doctrine or theological concepts. It's about recognizing the fundamental truth of your relationship to the creative source of all life. You acknowledge that the source is one with your being, not separate from it, not distant from it, not something you have to convince or petition. This recognition completely transforms the energy behind your words. Instead of speaking from a position of need, separation, or unworthiness, you speak from a consciousness of inherent connection to infinite supply. You're not trying to get something from a reluctant universe. You're claiming what already belongs to you by virtue of your spiritual nature. You're not attempting to bridge a gap between yourself and your good. You're recognizing that no such gap has ever existed except in your own perception. The transformation in your results happens because this shift in consciousness creates an entirely different vibrational signature. Behind the scenes of your conscious awareness, your decree works by establishing a mental vibratory model that attracts and organizes external conditions according to its content. Think of it like creating a template in the invisible realm that physical reality then uses as a blueprint to reorganize itself. This process operates with the same precision that governs every other natural law. When you drop an object, gravity doesn't decide whether or not to work based on your worthiness or your past mistakes. It simply responds to the conditions present. Similarly, when you establish a clear vibrational pattern through conscious decreeing, the law of attraction doesn't evaluate whether you deserve what you're claiming. It simply responds to the frequency you're consistently broadcasting. The hidden truth that makes this so powerful is that your external circumstances are always seeking to align themselves with your dominant internal patterns. Most people have this backwards. They think they need to change their outer world first, then their inner world will follow. But the universe operates in the opposite direction. Change the vibrational template, and physical reality reorganizes itself to match that new pattern. This is why some people can start with nothing and create extraordinary abundance, while others inherit wealth and lose it. This is why some individuals can overcome seemingly impossible health challenges, while others with every medical advantage struggle. The difference isn't in their external resources or circumstances, it's in the vibrational models they've established through their sustained consciousness. When you truly understand this mechanism, every area of your life becomes accessible to conscious transformation. Your financial situation stops being about the economy, your job, or external market conditions. It becomes about the prosperity consciousness you're maintaining and the abundance template you're establishing. Through your decrees, your relationships stop being about finding the right person or changing other people's behavior. They become about the love consciousness you're embodying and the harmony template you're broadcasting. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond personal improvement or individual success. When you begin operating as someone who knows their connection to the source, when your decisions flow from abundance rather than scarcity, when your very presence demonstrates what's possible through conscious alignment with spiritual law, you become a catalyst for transformation in everyone around you. Most people go through life unconsciously creating vibrational templates based on fear, doubt, past experiences, and social conditioning. They establish mental models of limitation without realizing it, then wonder why their external circumstances seem stuck or repetitive. But once you learn to consciously establish templates through authentic decreeing, you gain access to the fundamental creative mechanism of the universe. Now, I want to explore with you the specific foundation that makes this entire process possible, because there's something you need to understand about the nature of the source itself that determines whether your decrees carry genuine power or remain wishful thinking. Write in the comments, "I am connected to the source," if you're beginning to feel this truth about your spiritual identity. The foundation that determines whether your decrees carry genuine power or remain empty, wishful thinking lies in understanding something that completely revolutionizes how most people conceive of the creative force behind the universe. This isn't about religious beliefs or theological debates. This is about grasping a fundamental truth that transforms everything about how you relate to abundance, manifestation, and your own creative potential. God is not a person. God is principle, and this fact changes everything about how you approach the process of conscious creation. When most people think about connecting with the divine or accessing universal supply, they unconsciously imagine some kind of cosmic personality, a being with preferences, moods, judgments, and the capacity to grant or withhold blessings based on worthiness, behavior, or arbitrary decision-making. This anthropomorphic view, while understandable, actually limits your ability to work effectively with the creative laws of the universe. We call principle that which is eternal, absolute, impersonal, perfect, immutable, and universal. A principle cannot fail. Think about the principle of mathematics. 2 plus 2 always equals 4, regardless of who's doing the calculation, what their background is, or whether they deserve the correct answer. The principle operates with complete consistency, precision, and reliability. It doesn't have good days or bad days. It doesn't play favorites. It simply functions according to its inherent nature. This understanding transforms everything about how you approach your decrees and your relationship with abundance. When you recognize that you're working with principle rather than personality, you realize that the creative force of the universe isn't somewhere outside you, deciding whether or not to bless you. It's the very intelligence that governs your own consciousness, the same power that beats your heart, grows your hair, and coordinates the billions of cellular processes happening in your body. Every moment, the transformation in your results happens when you stop trying to convince, persuade, or petition some external authority and start aligning with the principle that's already operating through you. You don't need to earn the cooperation of the universe. You need to understand how universal laws work and then cooperate with them. You don't need to prove your worthiness to receive abundance. You need to establish the mental and emotional conditions that allow abundance to flow naturally. Behind the scenes of every successful manifestation, you'll find someone who has grasped this distinction, whether consciously or unconsciously. They've stopped operating from a consciousness of separation, begging or bargaining with external forces. Instead, they've learned to work with principle, to establish the inner conditions that naturally produce outer results according to law, not according to luck, favoritism, or random chance. This is why some people can apply these teachings and see immediate dramatic changes while others struggle for years without significant results. The difference isn't in their technique, their sincerity, or their spiritual background. The difference is in whether they're approaching this work as supplicants, hoping for divine intervention, or as conscious beings learning to cooperate with the laws that govern creation. When you understand that the source of all supply operates as principle rather than personality, your entire relationship with manifestation becomes more scientific, more reliable, and infinitely more empowering. You begin to see that abundance isn't about getting lucky or being chosen. It's about understanding how consciousness creates form and then applying that understanding consistently. The impact of this revelation extends far beyond personal prosperity or individual success. When you operate from the understanding that divine principle is the intelligence behind all natural processes, you begin to trust the same law that governs the seasons, the tides, and the movement of planets to govern your life with equal precision and perfection. Most people make their journey toward abundance much more difficult than it needs to be because they're trying to influence a cosmic personality rather than aligning with a cosmic principle. They exhaust themselves with effort, worry, and emotional manipulation when they could simply establish the right conditions and let the law work. Now, I want to reveal how this understanding of principle transforms your entire relationship with your own innate right to prosperity. Because there's something about your spiritual identity that most people have never been taught to recognize. Write in the comments, God is principle, if this understanding is shifting something fundamental in how you see the creative process. The revelation about principle transforms your entire relationship with prosperity when you understand one of its most profound implications. There is no place where God is not. This is what we call omnipresence, and if God is in everything, then good is in everything. This truth completely dissolves the illusion that abundance is scarce, that opportunities are limited, or that you have to compete with others for your share of prosperity. Most people operate from a hidden belief that good is concentrated in certain places, certain people, certain circumstances, while being absent from others. They believe they have to go somewhere find someone, or create specific conditions before they can access abundance. But when you truly grasp omnipresence, you realize that the source of all supply is as present in your current situation as it would be in any other. The intelligence that creates and sustains prosperity is not somewhere else. It's the very consciousness operating through you right now. This understanding has profound practical implications for every decision you make and every action you take. Instead of looking outside yourself for your good, you begin recognizing it within your current circumstances. Instead of waiting for conditions to improve before you can prosper, you start prospering from exactly where you are. Instead of believing you need to find the right opportunity, you realize that every opportunity is an expression of the same infinite intelligence that's already present in your life. Behind the scenes of this revelation lies another truth that completely transforms how you relate to abundance. God does not have reserves that run out. Everything divine principle gives, it gives without ceasing to possess it. The good that flows to you is not taken away from another. This flies in the face of almost everything our competitive, scarcity-based culture teaches us about success and prosperity. Think about the implications of this truth. When abundance flows into your life, you're not depriving anyone else of their good. When you prosper, you're not taking from a limited supply that leaves less for others. When you succeed, you're not preventing someone else from succeeding. The source operates like the sun. It can shine on countless flowers simultaneously without any flower receiving less light because others are also being illuminated. This recognition dissolves one of the most persistent blocks to prosperity that most people carry without realizing it: unconscious guilt about having more than others. Deep down, many people believe that their abundance somehow contributes to others' lack, that their success might make others feel bad, that taking more than they absolutely need is selfish or unfair. These beliefs create internal resistance that sabotages their ability to receive fully. The transformation happens when you understand that your prosperity actually serves the greater good. When you're aligned with abundance consciousness, you become a demonstration of what's possible for everyone. Your success doesn't diminish others, it inspires them. Your abundance doesn't create scarcity. It proves that scarcity is an illusion. Your prosperity doesn't take from the universal supply. It reveals how infinite that supply actually is. This is why trying to stay small, poor, or limited out of false humility or misguided compassion actually serves no one. When you restrict your own abundance, you're not helping others. You're reinforcing the collective belief in limitation. When you prosper fully and unapologetically, you're contributing to the expansion of possibility consciousness for everyone around you. The impact of truly accepting this truth goes far beyond personal financial freedom. It transforms your entire worldview from scarcity to abundance, from competition to collaboration, from fear to faith. You begin making decisions from a completely different foundation, not from the anxiety of limited supply, but from the confidence of infinite possibility. Most people spend their entire lives unconsciously operating from shortage consciousness, carefully rationing their energy, their generosity, their dreams, as if the universe were running low on good and they needed to conserve their portion. But when you understand the infinite nature of divine supply, you begin operating from overflow consciousness, giving freely, receiving fully, and trusting that there's always more where that came from. Now I want to explore how this understanding of infinite supply connects directly to something that most people have never been taught to recognize about their own spiritual identity and inherent relationship to abundance. Write in the comments, infinite supply, if you're beginning to sense the limitless nature of divine provision. Your spiritual identity and inherent relationship to abundance becomes clear when you understand that abundance is not an exception, a privilege, or a rare blessing reserved for a chosen few. It's an absolute and inalienable spiritual right of the human being as a child of God. This truth stands in complete opposition to almost everything most people have been taught about prosperity, success, and their own worthiness to receive good things. Most of us grew up absorbing messages that abundance is difficult to achieve, that only certain people deserve it, that wanting prosperity is somehow selfish or spiritually immature. We were taught to be grateful for scraps while believing that wanting more made us greedy. We learned to see poverty as noble and wealth as potentially corrupting. These beliefs didn't come from spiritual truth. They came from human conditioning, cultural programming, and misunderstanding of genuine spiritual principles. The transformation in your entire life experience begins when you recognize that these poverty consciousness teachings actually contradict the deepest spiritual truths. Consider this carefully. If you are truly created in the image and likeness of infinite abundance, if you are an expression of the same principle that creates stars, mountains, oceans, and endless varieties of life, how could limitation, lack, or scarcity be your natural state? How could the child of infinite supply be designed to live in want? Behind the scenes of most religious and spiritual traditions, you'll find this same truth being taught by the greatest masters throughout history. Jesus never glorified poverty or taught that being poor was more spiritual than being prosperous. What he actually said was, "I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly." Not just spiritual life, not just eternal life, but abundant life. Life overflowing with good in every form. This revelation completely transforms how you approach your desires for prosperity, success, and material well-being. Instead of feeling guilty about wanting abundance, you begin recognizing these desires as the natural stirring of your divine nature, seeking to express itself fully. Instead of believing you need to earn or deserve prosperity through suffering, sacrifice, or proving your worthiness, you start accepting it as your birthright, something that belongs to you simply because of what you are. The hidden truth that most people never discover is that false humility and artificial limitation actually dishonor the creative force that made you. When you live smaller than your potential, when you accept less than abundance, when you believe scarcity is somehow more spiritual than prosperity, you're essentially saying that infinite intelligence made a mistake when it created you. You're suggesting that the same power that creates unlimited beauty, variety, and abundance throughout nature somehow intended for its human expressions to live in lack. This understanding has profound implications for every decision you make about money, career, relationships, and life goals. Instead of asking whether you deserve abundance, you start asking how you can best express the abundance that's already your spiritual nature. Instead of wondering if it's okay to want prosperity, you begin exploring how your prosperity can serve not just yourself, but the expansion of good in the world. The impact of truly accepting your divine right to abundance extends far beyond personal financial freedom. It transforms your entire relationship with possibility itself. You stop living defensively, trying to protect yourself from loss or failure, and start living expansively, exploring what becomes possible when you operate from your true spiritual identity rather than from learned limitations. Most people spend decades trying to overcome feelings of unworthiness, guilt about success, or fear that abundance might somehow corrupt them or separate them from their spiritual path. But when you understand that abundance is actually your divine right, these internal conflicts begin dissolving naturally. You realize that the choice isn't between spirituality and prosperity. It's between expressing your full potential or living a diminished version of what you were created to be. Now, I want to reveal the specific internal mechanism that either allows this divine right to express through your experience or blocks it from manifesting, because understanding how your subconscious mind processes these truths is crucial to actually living them. Write in the comments, "Abundance is my birthright," if you're ready to claim this truth about your spiritual identity, the specific internal mechanism that either allows your divine right to express or blocks it from manifesting is directly connected to understanding what true humility actually means in this context. Most people have been taught that humility means making yourself small, denying your desires, or pretending you don't want good things in your life. But this false humility is actually one of the greatest obstacles to living abundantly. True humility does not consist in denying good, but in recognizing that it doesn't come from you, but through you. This distinction transforms everything about how you relate to prosperity and success. When you understand that you're not the source of abundance, you're the channel through which it flows, you can receive fully without ego, pride, or the fear that success will somehow corrupt your spiritual nature. Think about this carefully. A river doesn't apologize for flowing. A tree doesn't feel guilty about bearing fruit. The sun doesn't. A worry that shining too brightly might be showing off. These expressions of nature understand their role as channels for the creative force of life, and they fulfill that role completely without false modesty or artificial limitation. The same principle applies to your relationship with abundance. Behind the scenes of this understanding lies a crucial revelation about how your mind actually processes and implements these spiritual truths. Your consciousness operates on two distinct levels, each with a precise function in determining whether abundance becomes your lived experience or remains just an inspiring concept. These two operational levels are your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, and understanding how they work together is essential for making the journey from spiritual knowledge to practical transformation. Your conscious mind is the part of you that's absorbing this information right now. It's your reasoning faculty, your ability to analyze, evaluate, and make deliberate choices. This is the level of awareness that can understand principles, appreciate spiritual truths, and decide to apply new concepts. But here's what most people don't realize. Your conscious mind, powerful as it is, doesn't directly create your experience. It formulates the vision, but it doesn't execute the manifestation. The actual work of translating spiritual truth into physical reality happens at the subconscious level. Your subconscious mind is like the most sophisticated computer system imaginable, but one that operates according to very specific programming rules. It doesn't reason, argue, or evaluate whether the instructions it receives are beneficial or harmful, logical or illogical, empowering or limiting. It simply takes whatever patterns are repeatedly impressed upon it and works tirelessly to make those patterns manifest in your external experience. This explains why so many sincere people can study abundance principles, understand them intellectually, even teach them to others, yet continue living with financial struggle or limitation. Their conscious mind has embraced the truth about divine supply, but their subconscious mind is still operating from old programs of scarcity, unworthiness, or fear. The two levels of consciousness are working in opposite directions, creating internal conflict that prevents clear manifestation. The transformation happens when you learn to bridge these two levels of awareness effectively. Your decrees become the tool for reprogramming your subconscious mind with the abundance consciousness that your conscious mind has accepted as truth. But this process requires understanding exactly how your subconscious responds to different types of mental input and why some approaches succeed while others fail. The impact of mastering this internal dynamic extends far beyond personal prosperity. When both levels of your consciousness are aligned with abundance principles, you become a clear channel for good to flow, not just into your own life, but through your life to touch everyone around you. Your decisions naturally serve the highest good. Your success inspires rather than threatens others. Your prosperity becomes a demonstration of what's possible when someone learns to work with, rather than against, the laws of consciousness. Now, I want to reveal the specific characteristics of subconscious programming that determine whether your abundance decrees will be accepted and acted upon, or unconsciously rejected and neutralized. Write in the comments, "I am a clear channel," if you're understanding your role as a conduit for divine good rather than the source of it. The specific characteristics that determine whether your abundance decrees penetrate the subconscious level and create lasting transformation center around understanding the precise nature of this deeper level of consciousness. Your subconscious is a loyal, infallible, but impersonal servant. It doesn't argue with what you tell it, doesn't judge whether your instructions are wise or foolish, beneficial or harmful. It doesn't interpret your commands or evaluate their validity. It simply accepts and executes what is repeatedly delivered with conviction and emotion. This impersonal nature of subconscious programming is both incredibly powerful and potentially dangerous if you don't understand how it works. Think of your subconscious like the most advanced manufacturing system ever created. It will produce whatever you consistently feed into it as raw material, regardless of whether you actually want those products in your life. It's completely neutral about the content of your mental programming, but absolutely faithful about converting that programming into your lived experience. Behind the scenes of your daily life, this manufacturing process is operating continuously. Every time you repeat a thought with emotion, you are imprinting a mold in the subconscious. That mold will be the cause of future manifestations. This is why casual negative thinking can be so destructive and why conscious positive thinking can be so transformative. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what you're thinking seriously and what you're thinking casually. It only responds to the frequency and emotional intensity of your mental patterns. The transformation in your results happens when you understand that your subconscious is constantly receiving impressions from your conscious thoughts and converting them into the blueprint from which your external circumstances are constructed. If you repeatedly think thoughts of scarcity with emotional conviction, even if that emotion is fear or frustration, your subconscious accepts scarcity as your desired experience and works to create more situations that confirm that pattern. This explains why people can sincerely want abundance while continuing to experience lack. They consciously desire prosperity, but they unconsciously program their subconscious with thoughts of limitation. They might spend 10 minutes in the morning affirming abundance, then spend the rest of the day thinking and speaking about how difficult money is, how expensive everything has become, how hard it is to get ahead. The subconscious responds to the dominant pattern, not the occasional positive intention. The hidden truth that changes everything is recognizing that your subconscious doesn't distinguish between reality and imagination, between past and future, between what you want and what you fear. It only recognizes the patterns you consistently impress upon it with emotional intensity. This is why worry can be so destructive. When you worry about something repeatedly with strong emotion, you're essentially programming your subconscious to create the very experiences you're afraid of. But this same mechanism becomes incredibly empowering when you learn to use it consciously. When you repeatedly impress your subconscious with thoughts of abundance, prosperity, and success, accompanied by emotions of gratitude, excitement, and certainty, you're creating molds that will inevitably produce corresponding experiences in your external world. The impact of truly understanding this process extends far beyond individual manifestation or personal success. When you realize that your consistent thoughts and emotions are literally programming your life experience, you begin taking responsibility for your mental diet with the same care you would take with your physical nutrition. You start choosing your thoughts and managing your emotional states as conscious acts of self-creation rather than allowing them to run randomly based on circumstances, other people's opinions, or habitual patterns. Most people live their entire lives never realizing that they're unconsciously programming their subconscious minds every single day through casual thoughts, offhand comments, and emotional reactions. They create molds of limitation, struggle, and disappointment without understanding why their lives seem stuck in repetitive patterns. Now, I want to explore the specific mental errors that most people unconsciously program into their subconscious minds, creating invisible barriers to prosperity that can persist for decades until they're consciously identified and corrected. Write in the comments, "I choose my programming," if you're ready to take conscious control of what you're impressing on your subconscious mind. The specific mental errors that most people unconsciously program into their subconscious minds create invisible barriers that can persist for decades. And the first of these errors is so pervasive that most people never even recognize it as an error. It's the belief in scarcity as objective reality. This isn't just thinking that money is tight right now or that opportunities are limited in your current situation. This is a deep, unconscious conviction that scarcity is simply how the world works, that there's not enough to go around, that resources are fundamentally limited, that if someone succeeds, someone else must fail. Behind the scenes of this programming lies a lifetime of subtle conditioning. From early childhood, most people absorb messages like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "You have to work hard for everything you get," "Life is a struggle," and "Good things don't last." These aren't just casual expressions. They become the foundational beliefs that shape how your subconscious mind interprets and creates your experience with abundance. The transformation in your results begins when you recognize that scarcity is not an objective reality, but a collective hallucination maintained by millions of people who've been programmed with the same limiting beliefs. The universe itself operates on principles of infinite creativity, endless expansion, and abundant supply. Look at nature. The billions of stars, the countless varieties of life, the inexhaustible creativity expressed in every flower, every snowflake, every sunset. Scarcity exists only in consciousness, never in principle. But there's another mental error that's even more insidious because it masquerades as virtue or spiritual correctness. This is the unconscious guilt related to money, where wealth becomes associated with selfishness, superficiality, or corruption. Many people have been programmed to believe that wanting abundance is somehow spiritually immature, that having more than others is unfair, that money inevitably corrupts character or separates you from authentic values. This guilt-based programming creates internal conflict that sabotages prosperity at the subconscious level. Even when your conscious mind desires abundance, if your deeper programming associates wealth with negative traits, your subconscious will protect you from becoming what it perceives as a bad person by blocking financial success. Your internal guidance system will unconsciously steer you away from opportunities, or cause you to make poor decisions, or create circumstances that prevent you from accumulating wealth. The hidden truth that dissolves this programming is understanding that money itself is completely neutral. It's simply a tool for exchange, a medium for facilitating the flow of goods and services. Money has no inherent moral quality, any more than a hammer or a computer has moral quality. The character of the person using the tool determines whether it serves constructive or destructive purposes. This revelation transforms your entire relationship with prosperity because you realize that having abundance doesn't make you selfish. It makes you more capable of serving others. Being financially free doesn't separate you from spiritual values. It gives you the resources to express those values more effectively. Accumulating wealth doesn't make you superficial. It provides you with options and opportunities to focus on what matters most to you. The impact of correcting these mental errors goes far beyond personal financial freedom. When you clear the guilt and scarcity programming from your subconscious, you begin making decisions from clarity rather than conflict. Your natural generosity can flow freely because you're no longer operating from a consciousness of limitation. Your creativity expands because you're not unconsciously restricting yourself to avoid success. Most people struggle with abundance not because they lack knowledge, skills, or opportunities, but because their subconscious programming is working against their conscious desires. They're trying to build prosperity on a foundation of scarcity beliefs and guilt-based associations that undermine every effort they make. The journey toward authentic abundance requires identifying and transforming these invisible mental patterns that operate below the level of conscious awareness but control the quality of your experience. Now, I want to reveal another critical mental error that prevents prosperity, one that's directly connected to how you view effort, struggle, and the relationship between hard work and value. Write in the comments, "I release guilt about money," if you're ready to clear these limiting associations from your consciousness. The critical mental error that's directly connected to how you view effort and struggle runs so deep in most people's programming that they never question it, even when it's creating unnecessary difficulty in every area of their lives. This is the identification with effort as a measure of value. The deeply ingrained belief that only what is struggled for with sweat and sacrifice is truly obtained or deserved. This programming typically gets installed during childhood through well-meaning messages like "nothing worthwhile comes easy." You have to earn everything you get, and anything worth having requires hard work. While there's nothing wrong with dedicated effort toward meaningful goals, the problem arises when struggle itself becomes the metric by which you measure whether something is valuable or legitimate. Behind the scenes of this mental error lies a subtle but destructive equation. If something comes easily, it must not be worth much. If you didn't suffer for it, you probably don't deserve it. If abundance flows naturally into your life, there must be something wrong or suspicious about it. This programming creates internal resistance to receiving good that comes through grace, alignment, or natural law. Rather than through grinding effort and personal sacrifice, the transformation in your experience happens when you understand that the universe operates on principles of harmony, not struggle. Look at how nature creates abundance. Trees don't strain to grow. Flowers don't struggle to bloom. Rivers don't work hard to flow downhill. They simply align with natural laws and allow those laws to express through them. The same principle applies to human prosperity when you learn to work with spiritual laws rather than against them. This doesn't mean avoiding all effort or expecting everything to manifest without any action on your part. It means understanding that right effort aligned with spiritual principle creates far greater results than grinding effort based on struggle consciousness. When you're aligned with abundance principles, your actions become inspired rather than desperate, strategic rather than frantic, effective rather than just busy. Another equally destructive mental error that prevents the free flow of abundance is fear of loss, which creates an energy of contraction that actually prevents the circulation of good in your life. This fear expresses itself in countless ways: hoarding money instead of investing it wisely, avoiding opportunities because they might not work out, staying in limiting situations because they feel safe, or refusing to give generously because you might not have enough left for yourself. The hidden truth about fear of loss is that it creates the very experiences it's trying to prevent. When you operate from contraction consciousness, you literally squeeze off the natural flow of abundance that wants to move through your life. You become like someone trying to hold water in cupped hands. The tighter you grip, the more it escapes through your fingers. The impact of this contractive energy extends far beyond financial decisions. It affects your relationships, your creativity, your willingness to take calculated risks, your openness to new possibilities. Fear of loss makes you play small, choose safety over growth, and settle for less than what's actually available to you. The journey toward authentic abundance requires recognizing that the universe operates on principles of circulation, not accumulation. Good flows to those who allow it to flow through them. Prosperity comes to those who participate in the natural rhythm of giving and receiving rather than trying to hoard and control. Most people, unconsciously, program their subconscious minds with struggle consciousness and fear-based thinking, then wonder why abundance feels so difficult to achieve or maintain. They create internal resistance to the very prosperity they consciously desire through these deeply embedded mental errors that operate below their awareness. Now, I want to explore how these mental patterns directly affect the power of your spoken words and reveal why the language you use every day is either building or destroying your capacity to live abundantly. Write in the comments, "I allow natural flow," if you're ready to release struggle consciousness and fear-based thinking about abundance. How these mental patterns directly affect the power of your spoken words becomes clear when you understand a fundamental truth that most people never recognize: the word creates. What you say becomes law for your subconscious. This isn't metaphorical or symbolic. Your spoken words carry vibrational frequency that directly programs your deeper consciousness and literally shapes the reality you experience. Most people treat their daily language as casual communication with no deeper significance, never realizing that every word they speak is an active decree that their subconscious mind receives as instruction. Behind the scenes of your everyday conversations, complaints, and casual remarks, you're constantly giving orders to the most powerful creative mechanism in your consciousness, orders that it will faithfully execute, whether you intended them seriously or not. The transformation in your results becomes dramatic when you recognize that your habitual language patterns are among the most powerful tools for either creating abundance or perpetuating limitation. Every time you say, "I never have luck, everything goes wrong for me, I'm a disaster with money," you are literally engraving those ideas in the invisible mold of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't evaluate whether these statements are true, helpful, or spoken in jest. It simply accepts them as your desired experience and works to make them manifest. This revelation explains why some people seem to attract misfortune, while others effortlessly draw good experiences into their lives. It's not about luck, favoritism, or cosmic injustice. It's about the consistent vibrational patterns they're broadcasting through their spoken words. The person who habitually says, "I can't afford that," "money is always tight," or "nothing ever works out for me," is unconsciously programming their subconscious to create experiences that confirm those statements. Behind every pattern of struggle or limitation in someone's life, you'll find corresponding patterns in their daily language. They speak limitation, they experience limitation. They declare scarcity, they manifest scarcity. They proclaim failure, they attract failure. Not because the universe is punishing them, but because they're unconsciously using the law of creation against themselves through the power of their own words. The hidden truth that changes everything is understanding that your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between words spoken with serious intent and words spoken casually, jokingly, or out of habit. The emotional energy behind your words determines their programming power, and many people speak their limitations with far more conviction and emotion than they speak their desires. Think about the difference in energy when someone complains about money problems versus when they affirm abundance. The complaint usually carries frustration, fear, or anger, powerful emotions that drive the programming deep into subconscious patterns. The abundance affirmation might be spoken half-heartedly, without genuine feeling, making it ineffective at overriding the stronger emotional programming of the complaint. The impact of truly understanding this principle extends far beyond personal manifestation. When you realize that your words are constantly creating your experience, you begin treating your language as one of your most valuable assets. You start choosing your words with the same care you would choose the materials for building your home, because you understand that's exactly what you're doing, building the invisible structure that becomes your visible life. Most people unconsciously sabotage their abundance potential through careless speech patterns they've developed over years or decades. They counter every positive affirmation with casual negative comments. They neutralize their abundance decrees with habitual expressions of limitation. They program scarcity consciousness through daily conversations that focus on what's wrong, what's lacking, or what's difficult. The journey toward mastering this principle requires developing what we might call conscious speech, awareness of not just what you're saying, but what vibrational frequency you're broadcasting through your words and how that frequency is programming your subconscious mind. Now, I want to explore the crucial relationship between timing, faith, and the natural rhythms that govern how your spoken decrees manifest in physical reality. Write in the comments, "My words create my world," if you're recognizing the creative power of your daily language patterns. The crucial relationship between timing, faith, and the natural rhythms that govern manifestation reveals one of the most challenging aspects of working with abundance principles. Understanding that everything manifests in cycles, in ordered sequences, in natural stages of development. This truth often conflicts with our modern expectation of instant results and immediate gratification, yet it's fundamental to how the creative laws of the universe actually operate. Behind the scenes of every manifestation, there's an invisible process of organization, preparation, and alignment that must occur before something can appear in physical form. Just as a seed requires time to germinate, establish roots, and eventually produce fruit, your spoken decrees require time to work through the layers of consciousness, reorganize circumstances, and attract the necessary people, opportunities, and resources to bring your vision into reality. The transformation in your results happens when you align your expectations with this natural rhythm rather than fighting against it through impatience, doubt, or frustration. Most people undermine their own manifestations by demanding immediate evidence that their decrees are working. They speak their truth on Monday and expect to see results by Friday, then conclude the process isn't working when nothing obvious has changed. This impatience actually interferes with the natural unfolding of manifestation because it introduces doubt and anxiety into the vibrational pattern you're maintaining. When you decree a truth, the most powerful approach is to avoid setting deadlines, establishing conditions, or asking when it will manifest. Simply declare with conviction, "This is already mine." This statement acknowledges that in the realm of infinite possibility, your good already exists in complete form, and it's simply a matter of allowing it to emerge through natural law. The hidden truth about divine timing is that it's always perfect, even when it doesn't match your personal preferences or expectations. Sometimes what appears to be a delay is actually preparation time, either preparing you to receive what you've requested or preparing the circumstances to deliver it in the most beneficial way. Sometimes the apparent slowness is protection, preventing you from receiving something before you're truly ready to handle it wisely. Behind every overnight success story, you'll usually find years of invisible preparation, skill development, and consciousness expansion that preceded the visible breakthrough. The public sees the sudden manifestation, but the universe sees the complete cycle of development that made that manifestation possible and sustainable. The impact of truly understanding this rhythm transforms your entire relationship with the manifestation process. Instead of anxiously monitoring for results, you develop what we might call confident expectancy, the peaceful certainty that your good is already in motion, organizing itself according to perfect timing and divine intelligence. You learn to trust the process rather than trying to control it. This doesn't mean becoming passive or avoiding appropriate action. It means taking inspired action when guidance comes, while releasing attachment to specific timelines or methods of delivery. You maintain your vision with unwavering faith while remaining flexible about how and when it manifests. Most people sabotage their own manifestations through what we might call spiritual impatience, the inability to sustain their faith and positive expectancy during the invisible stages of manifestation. They start strong with their decrees and visualizations, but gradually lose momentum when immediate results don't appear. They begin doubting their worthiness, questioning the process, or changing their focus to different goals before the original vision has had time to fully manifest. The journey toward mastering this principle requires developing faith that operates independently of external evidence. True faith doesn't require proof. It is the proof, internally maintained, while external reality catches up to internal conviction. Now, I want to reveal how gratitude functions as the crucial element that accelerates and amplifies the entire manifestation process, transforming your decrees from hopeful requests into magnetic forces of attraction. Write in the comments, perfect timing, if you're learning to trust the natural rhythm of manifestation rather than demanding immediate results. How gratitude functions as the crucial element that accelerates and amplifies the entire manifestation process becomes clear when you understand that gratitude is not a circumstantial emotion triggered by receiving something you like. It's a deep attitude of the soul that creates the perfect atmosphere for the multiplication of goods in your life. This distinction transforms gratitude from a polite response to external circumstances into a powerful creative force that operates independently of your current situation. Most people approach gratitude backwards. They wait for something good to happen, then feel grateful for it. But this conditional gratitude, while pleasant, has limited creative power because it's reactive rather than causative. It acknowledges what has already manifested rather than creating the vibrational conditions for new manifestation to occur. The transformation happens when you understand that in divine law, first you give thanks and then you receive, because true gratitude does not depend on the visible. This reversal of the typical sequence might seem counterintuitive at first, but it's actually aligned with how consciousness creates form. When you express genuine gratitude for your good before it manifests physically, you're establishing the perfect vibrational frequency to attract and receive that good. Behind the scenes of this process, gratitude operates as what we might call a magnetic multiplier. While other emotional states like desire, hope, or even positive thinking can attract experiences, gratitude has a unique quality. It eliminates resistance. When you're truly grateful for something, you're not questioning whether you deserve it, doubting whether it will come, or worrying about how it will manifest. You're simply appreciating it as already real, already yours, already moving into your experience. This appreciation without conditions creates an internal environment where abundance can flow freely. Think about it this way: gratitude is the emotion of someone who already has what they need. When you can generate that feeling before receiving the physical manifestation, you're literally vibrating at the frequency of abundance rather than the frequency of lack or need. The hidden truth about gratitude's multiplying effect is that it changes your relationship with time in the manifestation process. Instead of feeling like you're waiting for something to come to you from outside, gratitude makes you feel like you're receiving something that's already yours. This shift in perception aligns your consciousness with the invisible reality where Your good already exists in perfect form. The impact of this understanding extends far beyond individual manifestation into every aspect of how you experience life. When gratitude becomes your default attitude rather than a conditional response, you begin noticing abundance everywhere. You start appreciating the countless gifts that surround you constantly, from the air you breathe to the intelligence that operates your body, from the beauty in nature to the kindness of strangers. This expanded awareness of existing abundance creates a positive feedback loop that attracts even more abundance. The universe responds to the frequency you're consistently broadcasting, and grateful people naturally broadcast a frequency that harmonizes with prosperity, opportunity, and positive relationships. Most people severely limit their manifestation power by maintaining gratitude only when things are going well, then shifting into complaint, worry, or frustration when challenges arise. But the soul, that has learned to practice gratitude as a spiritual discipline, can maintain that multiplying frequency regardless of temporary circumstances, because their gratitude is rooted in spiritual truth rather than material appearances. The journey toward mastering gratitude as a creative force requires developing what we might call anticipatory appreciation, the ability to feel genuinely thankful for your good while it's still in the invisible realm, still organizing itself for physical manifestation. This isn't pretending or trying to convince yourself of something you don't believe. It's recognizing that the spiritual realm is more real and more reliable than physical appearances. Now, I want to explore how all these principles integrate into a complete lifestyle approach that transforms abundance from something you occasionally experience into something you consistently embody as your natural way of being. Write in the comments, grateful in advance, if you're understanding, how to appreciate your good before it becomes visible. How all these principles integrate into a complete lifestyle approach becomes clear when you understand that true abundance is not about occasionally applying these techniques when you need something. It's about living abundance as a way of being, as a continuous consciousness that unifies your thoughts, words, emotions, and actions in complete alignment with spiritual truth. The transformation from sporadic practice to permanent embodiment happens when you stop treating abundance consciousness as something you do and start experiencing it as something you are. Instead of decreeing abundance for a few minutes each morning, then spending the rest of the day thinking, speaking, and acting from scarcity patterns, you maintain consistency across every aspect of your experience. Behind the scenes of this integration, a fundamental shift occurs in your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who sometimes practices abundance principles and start recognizing yourself as someone who is abundance, expressing in human form. This isn't ego or delusion. It's the recognition of your true spiritual nature as an individualized expression of infinite supply. The hidden truth about permanent abundance is that it requires what we might call holistic alignment. Your thoughts must support abundance, your words must decree abundance, your emotions must feel abundance, and your actions must demonstrate abundance. When these four dimensions of your being operate in harmony, you become a clear channel through which prosperity can flow consistently rather than sporadically. Most people experience temporary improvements when they apply these principles, but then slide back into old patterns because they haven't achieved this complete integration. They think abundant thoughts in the morning, speak limiting words during the day, feel anxious emotions about money, and take actions based on fear or scarcity. These contradictory signals create internal conflict that prevents sustained abundance. The impact of achieving this holistic alignment extends far beyond personal prosperity. When you embody abundance consciousness consistently, you become a demonstration of what's possible for others. Your very presence begins to shift the consciousness of everyone around you. Your success inspires rather than threatens because it's clearly rooted in spiritual principle rather than competition or manipulation. The journey toward this permanent embodiment requires patience with yourself as you gradually align all aspects of your being with abundance consciousness. It's not about perfection, but about consistent direction. Each day you practice thinking, speaking, feeling, and acting from abundance rather than scarcity. You strengthen this new identity until it becomes your natural way of being. Now I want to share with you the practical daily framework that makes this transformation not just possible, but inevitable. When applied with consistency and understanding, write in the comments, "I am abundance," if you're ready to embody this truth as your complete identity rather than just practicing it occasionally. The practical daily framework that makes this transformation inevitable is something you'll discover as you continue applying what we've explored together today. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, from understanding thought as universal cause to embodying permanent abundance consciousness, you've already demonstrated the kind of commitment that creates real transformation. What we've covered today represents years of study condensed into practical wisdom you can begin applying immediately. The principles of mentalism, the power of conscious decreeing, understanding God as infinite source, recognizing your divine right to abundance, working with your subconscious mind, clearing mental errors, harnessing the creative power of words, trusting divine timing, practicing gratitude as a multiplier, and finally integrating all of this into a complete way of being. These aren't just concepts to understand intellectually. They're tools for completely reshaping your relationship with prosperity and success. If this resonates with you, if you're recognizing yourself in this material, if you're feeling that inner shift that happens when truth connects with your soul, I'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. There's so much more we can explore together about consciousness, manifestation, and living from your highest potential. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video, write in the comments, "This message was for me." Because honestly, it takes a special kind of person to absorb this much transformational content in one sitting. When I see that comment, I'll know you're serious about this work. If this video has shifted something in your understanding, a simple like helps more people discover this content and begin their own journey toward abundance consciousness. There's a video right here that dives even deeper into the specific techniques for programming your subconscious mind with abundance patterns. Click on it and continue this exploration with me, because what you've learned today is just the beginning of what becomes possible when you truly understand how consciousness creates reality.